The sun had barely warmed the rooftops when panic rippled through the town like a shockwave. A trembling mother voice, cracking, called 911. Her 10-year-old son never returned after biking with friends the evening before. Within the next hour, 3 more families reported the same. 4 children, all gone. No witnesses, no signs, just silence. Sirens screamed across Maple Hollow. Helicopters scoured the sky. Volunteers combed the woods. But there were no backpacks, no bicycles, no footprints. It was as if the earth had swallowed them whole. And as the hours ticked by, one haunting truth settled in: the children had vanished without a trace. Officer Jake Wallace had weathered many storms in his years on the force, but nothing unnerved him like the silence left behind by missing children. At his side was Zeus, his loyal canine partner, a German shepherd with unmatched instincts and unwavering devotion. Together, they had tracked fugitives, rescued the lost, and cracked cases others had abandoned. But this time felt different. Every lead vanished like smoke. Every scent trail ended in nothing. As the search dragged into its 5th day, fatigue crept into Jake's bones and worry etched deeper lines across his face. Zeus, too, was growing restless, his usual focus replaced by anxious pacing and low whines. Still, Jake pushed forward, whispering quiet promises to the dog and to himself. We'll find them. Because in a town suffocating with fear and fading hope, Jake knew one truth remained: if anyone could uncover what others had missed, it was Zeus. Just as despair began to settle over the search effort, a voice crackled through Jake's radio. A farmer on the edge of town reported something odd. His dog refused to go near an old barn, long presumed abandoned. The barn had already been cleared, or so everyone thought. But Zeus perked up instantly, ears rigid as if he'd been waiting for this moment. Jake didn't hesitate. "Let's check it out, boy," he said, turning the cruiser down the overgrown path. With each mile, hope flickered back to life. They didn't know it yet, but that barn held everything. The barn loomed like a ghost from the past, its wood-faded windows shattered and roof sagging beneath the weight of time. Yet Zeus leapt from the cruiser before Jake even turned off the ignition. His nose met the ground, weaving back and forth with purpose. Jake followed his flashlight, casting long, nervous shadows across the barn's interior. Then a low growl, deep, guttural, and urgent, froze Jake in his tracks. Zeus stood rigid near the back wall, pawing at the floorboards with growing desperation. Jake dropped beside him, heart pounding. "What is it, boy?" he whispered. The dog didn't respond, just clawed harder, whining as dust rose in swirls. Jake grabbed a crowbar and began prying at the board splinters, biting his hands. Suddenly, beneath the crackling wood, came the faintest sound, a muffled thump. Jake's breath caught. Someone was down there, and they were alive. The impossible was happening. Zeus had found them. Jake's fingers worked frantically, prying up warped planks as Zeus barked with increasing urgency. The scent of damp earth filled the air, but beneath it something else. Human. Then a whisper, barely audible, "Help!" Jake froze, heart racing. He yanked the last board loose, revealing its rotting hatch camouflaged by time and dust. Zeus pawed at it wildly until Jake pulled it open. A wave of cold air rushed up, followed by the terrified gaze of a dirt-streaked child. "They're here!" Jake shouted into his radio. He descended the dark root cellar with his flashlight trembling in hand. Huddled in the cramped shadows were 4 children, wide-eyed, trembling but alive. One child reached out towards Zeus, who had already laid down beside them, tail gently wagging. "You're safe now," Jake whispered, lifting one child gently into his arms. Against all odds, they had been found. Not by technology, not by chance, but by a dog who refused to give up. The sirens came first, wailing through the trees, followed by flashing lights as backup units and medics flooded the old barn. Jake emerged from the hatch, cradling the first child in his arms. The boy clung to him like a lifeline, his face buried in Jake's shoulder, trembling but alive. One by one, the children were lifted out, wrapped in blankets, their parents arriving seconds later in a rush of sobs and disbelief. A mother collapsed to her knees upon seeing her daughter whispering prayers into her tangled hair. Another father wept openly, hugging his son as if he would never let go again. In the center of it all lay Zeus, exhausted but alert, his head resting beside the youngest child, gently nudging her when she stirred. That moment, captured in photos and etched into every onlooker's memory, wasn't just about a rescue. It was about faith restored. Jake looked down at his partner, eyes misting. "You did it," he whispered, voice cracking. Zeus had done what technology, manpower, and protocol could not. He listened to instinct, and in doing so, gave 4 families their children back. No one would ever see him as just a dog again. He was their hero, their miracle with a tail. Later that night at the hospital, as doctors checked the children for dehydration and shock, the truth slowly came to light. They hadn't been kidnapped, just curious kids chasing adventure. One had found the old cellar hatch, and the rest had followed. But once inside, the rotted door slammed shut and jammed. With no signal and thick walls, their cries were swallowed by silence. They survived on leftover snacks in their backpacks, clinging to each other in the dark. It was a story of innocent mischief that nearly became tragedy until Zeus sniffed out what no one else could. News of the miraculous rescue spread like wildfire. By morning, headlines across the nation hailed the German Shepherd as a true hero. K9 dog finds missing children in abandoned barn. Cameras flashed, reporters swarmed, but through it all, Zeus remained calm, seated loyally beside Officer Jake. During the press conference, someone asked how the dog had known. Jake didn't give a technical answer. He simply placed a hand on Zeus's head and said, "I trust his nose and his heart. He's never let me down." And in that moment, the town saw what true loyalty looked like. That evening, as calm returned to the town and the children rested safely in the hospital, the truth behind their disappearance came to light. They hadn't been taken, they had simply explored too far. Drawn by curiosity, the kids had descended into the old cellar beneath the barn, only for the rotting hatch to slam shut behind them. Trapped in silence, they waited, their voices unheard. But Zeus, trusting only instinct and heart, had sensed what technology missed. His persistence turned panic into miracle. In the end, it wasn't strategy that saved them. It was one dog's refusal to give up. News of the incredible rescue spread like wildfire. By sunrise, national headlines were already calling Zeus a hero. K9 dog finds missing children in abandoned barn blazed across morning broadcasts. Reporters flooded the small-town cameras. AIM microphones extended, all wanting a glimpse of the German Shepherd who defied the odds. At the press conference, Zeus sat quietly by Officer Jake's side, his golden eyes calm under the flash of cameras. When asked how he knew where to look, Jake simply placed a hand on Zeus's back and said, "I trust his nose, and more importantly, his heart. He's never led me wrong." That moment captured more than a soundbite. It spoke of faith, loyalty, and the unbreakable bond between man and dog. Zeus hadn't just tracked missing children, he'd restored hope to a community on the edge, proving that sometimes the greatest heroes don't speak. They listen, sniff, and lead. Later that evening, as the town slowly returned to its routine details, began to emerge ones that deepened both the relief and the sorrow. The children hadn't been kidnapped, nor had they wandered far. They were simply curious, chasing laughter into an old barn no one thought to check twice. When they discovered a rotting hatch, their sense of adventure led them underground. But when the door slammed shut above them, whether by wind or misfortune, it locked tight. The cellar once used for storing crops had thick walls that swallowed sound. No signal, no sunlight, and no way to call for help. Days passed. Food wrappers from their backpacks helped briefly, but dehydration and cold crept in. They huddled together, whispering stories, unsure if they'd be found. No one had thought to return to the same barn, no one except Zeus. The dog's instincts had pierced through silence where technology and routine had failed. By the next morning, news of the rescue had swept across the country like wildfire. Headlines hailed Zeus as a hero. Canine dog finds missing children in abandoned barn. Camera crews flooded into the quiet town, eager to capture footage of the dog that defied the odds. At the press conference, Zeus sat calmly beside Jake, unmoved by the flashing cameras or chaos around him. His eyes, golden and steady, reflected not pride, but quiet understanding. When asked how Zeus had known, Jake simply looked at his partner and said, "I trust his nose and his heart. He's never led me wrong." And in that simple answer, the world saw not just a working dog, but a guardian who had listened when no one else could. This story carries several powerful messages deeply relevant to daily life, especially for older audiences who understand the value of time, trust, and perseverance. At its heart, it reminds us never to underestimate the quiet instincts of loyalty and love. Zeus the canine dog found what sophisticated technology, large teams, and countless efforts had missed because he trusted his senses and refused to give up. The story teaches us that sometimes answers come not from the loudest voices, but from those who simply don't stop searching. It also highlights the importance of paying attention to the overlooked, the forgotten places, and the small signs. Just as in life, wisdom often hides in the quiet moments. For seniors who may feel their strength fading, let this story be a reminder. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it lies in staying present, in caring deeply, and in believing that even in silence, your intuition still matters.